Hi, this is Todd Malicote, the SEO faculty for Market Motive and online marketing consultant at stuntdouble.com, and I'm here today to talk to you about how to prune your link profile using Google's Disavow tool. We're going to look at the different types of links and what it means to have link diversity, a history of what I call stinking linking thinking, and why we need the Disavow tool in Google Webmaster Tools. We'll take a deeper look at penalties, filters, and bannings, when you should disavow links to your website, how, and a brief look at reconsideration requests, which has spawned another video entirely. So the first thing I want to talk about is doing a link diversity check. I have a video called 6 Backlink Health Checks You Need to Do Right Now. And the idea here is to understand the different types of links. I often say links is to SEOs what snow is to Eskimos. There's more than just one type of snow. There's more than just one type of links. In fact, we've identified at least 12 different types of links. You could go further than this, but this gives us a pretty good idea, a pretty good starting point of the different types of links, how you achieve them, and their overall value. This next slide is from a presentation I actually did as my first presentation almost 7 or 8 years ago, and it's as true today as it was then. The idea that if you only have reciprocal links, or only have links from certain IP addresses, or only have links to the homepage, or only have links with similar anchor text, you're going to need diversity to that. You need to have a link profile that looks natural. And this is a big part of what the problems that occurred with the Penguin update in Google. It comes from a history of bad linking, or what I call stinking linking thinking. And what it is when you go into a company and they finally understand, hey, we need links to improve our SEO, people start to come up with ideas. And they start to come up with ideas to manipulate PageRank and to get links the easy way. And they say, well, why don't we buy links, and why don't we do forum spam and blog spam and directory spam and all of these types of links that work for a little while, but not forever. It's short-term stinking linking thinking. And then to take things a step further, some people said, well, if these links can hurt your site, if we did some blog spam and it hurt our site, well, why don't we do that to our competitors? So we'll go out and we'll Google bomb our competitors with blog spam, and we'll take the really, really low road approach and do bad things to our competitors. Well, this made a problem for Google when they said, well, you can have negative SEO. You can negatively impact a site by the links pointing to it. So we needed to find out if that was happening to us, first off, with our 6 link health checks that I mentioned earlier. You can check out the entire video on this. But Google's solution to this problem of negative SEO and bad links coming into a site was the Disavow tool. So what the Disavow tool is saying either these links aren't mine, or I bought some bad links in the past, or did some bad linking, I had some stinking linking thinking, and now I want to confess those sins and come clean. I want to take those off there. I tried to remove them, and now I want to disavow these links. So the Disavow tool is kind of a solution to the Penguin problem, to negative SEO problem. It's within Webmaster Tools, and you can find it here, so you should absolutely be signed up to Webmaster Tools at google.com/webmasters. You'll find that tool within here, and then we'll talk a little bit on how to use it. But before we do that, I need to say, be careful using it. You can really do harm to your site by using this tool, because if you have links that are working and you disavow them, then you're taking link equity away from your site. So let's take a step back for a minute and consider this idea of a penalty, filter, or banning. So a penalty is a serious offense where you could be de-indexed for 30 to 120 days, and this might require a re-inclusion request. Usually these are pretty significant penalties. If you've been doing some very aggressive, high-risk tactics, you may suffer an algorithmic or manual penalty. Now, to do a re-inclusion request, it has to be a manual penalty for the most part for them to re-include you. If it's an algorithmic penalty or an algorithmic filter, then you're probably not going to get re-included just from that request. Now, a filter is the most common. If you have too much anchor text, with the Penguin problems, if you had too many ads over the fold. There's a variety of things. If you have too much duplicate content, sometimes get a filter. And these are algorithmic. These are based on the computer algorithm that runs Google and not necessarily on human intervention. So it's the most common and does not require a re-inclusion request. This happens most of the time. So don't do a re-inclusion request. Don't use the Disavow tool unless you know that you have a penalty and not just a filter. Now, you can use the Disavow tool if it's just a filter, but again, you may also be disavowing links at work. So be certain that you cleaned up your links with other means and that you understand the difference between the penalty, filter, and then a banning is outright your site is gone. Most sites never get banned. JCPenney's and Forbes and some other very high-profile sites, BMW, have had penalties for just egregious spam, but they didn't even get banned. So most of the time, unless you're a really bad black hat, you're not going to get a ban. And that's what Matt Cutts calls a grand slam spammer. In that case, you need to start over, but most of the time that doesn't happen. So unless you're in an extreme case, you probably have a filter or a penalty. So a penalty looks a little something like this. This is an example of a Penguin penalty where you have all this traffic up in the over 5,000 range, 5,000 visitors a day, and then all of a sudden April 24th, boom, you have 200 visitors a day. That can be either a penalty or a filter sometimes. Most likely this is a penalty. Not necessarily a manual penalty, but it could be an algorithmic penalty, in which case you may or may not have luck with a re-inclusion request. And that's a big part of what the Penguin update was. People were warned by Google about unnatural linking, and it was detected algorithmically. So Penguin as a filter or as a penalty, which is a little bit a hybrid of both, is an algorithmic penalty or filter, not necessarily a manual action, and therefore you can't do that reconsideration process. And that's why we need the Disavow tool. It's a site-wide penalty, and it's updated periodically algorithmically. So we can't do that reconsideration request. We need to consider other ideas. It's an anchor text filter in a lot of ways. So there's an anchor text filter and there is a site-wide penalty. And neither of these can we do a reconsideration request, and that's why we need the Disavow tool. That's why people were clamoring for this tool before they actually released it. A lot of times you'll drop 100 spots in the penalty and traffic will be down over 50%. So you can see why this is such an important tool to us now. What we were doing with these sites was sending negative offsite signals. By buying links, by having run-a-site links, by having other things that Google has now deemed over-optimization, we were sending unnatural offsite signals, and it is now triggering these algorithmic penalties and filters. So we needed to take these negative signals away from our site. We need to get rid of these links that are causing the problems, but we don't want to get rid of the links that are helping us. So identifying those and being aware of what types of links are good and what types of links are bad is really a difficult area right now, and it's one that you really have to focus some effort on. So focus on getting rid of low-quality links, the ones that could be doing negative SEO to your site, links that have low click-through or no traffic validation, if there's no referral data, if there's no social validation to the pages on your site that those links are pointing to, meaning if those pages don't have any social signals but they have a bunch of links, that's kind of a negative signal because it's more likely that if you got links you would also have some social signals. So don't have excessive run-of-site links or a single type, lots of directory links, lots of reciprocal links. A few on their own is fine, but don't get carried away with a single link type. And that's where that stinking linking thinking came in. And a lot of companies had stinking linking thinking embedded in their culture, and we need to remove that. And we need to remove those bad links. So one way to do that, a nice automated tool, is remove them. And for $250, you can uncover your bad links, or I think for free you can do the self-serve and you can see some of the bad links, and then they'll give you an email database and let you track the campaign. So for $250, this is the way to start. Start here before you do your Disavow tool if you think you have more than 50 or 100 links that are not quality links. So stop and think about your stinking linking thinking first and remove them. Now, if you only have a handful of pages and they're sub-pages, you can also 404 and move the page to disavow it. So if you had been doing inbound linking to a certain page on your site and it was a sub-page for a long time, and the majority of those links are not good links, you can just 404 that page and move it elsewhere within your internal architecture. And this is a good way to kind of disavow and say, hey, we did this linking in the past. We're just going to 404 this page and not reclaim these links. And you can go out and reclaim some of the good ones as well. So consider a 404 before the disavow tool if you're talking about subpages that are no longer ranking and are only suffering from a filter and not necessarily a penalty. So when do you want to actually disavow? Well, you want to disavow if you got a bad link warning, most likely. You want to get rid of some of those links. If you got a manual penalty, if you got a penguin penalty that was very severe, you're definitely going to want to do this. And if you have negative SEO, if you lost traffic because one of your competitors was spamming your site with blog spam or log spam or who knows what. So how do you use the disavow tool? Well, it's within your Google Webmaster Central, so you're going to have to be signed up at Google Webmaster Central. And then it's just a flat text file that you submit. And you're going to say, I tried to contact these guys. I tried to have them remove my link. I didn't know about these links, or a competitor put up these links. You're just going to want to list some of those links and let Google know what you did to try to remove those, or what the problem was, or why they came through. You really want to be careful before you use this tool. Matt has given us some great information about how to use this tool and how long it takes for it to kick in. I think he said right around a month, a couple weeks to a month, for disavowed links to be removed from your profile. But then if you disavow links that should be there, it takes even longer to put them back. So be very careful in using this tool. And if you watch this video with Matt, he'll tell you as well, be careful in using this tool. Make sure it's the right time and place. It's a power tool for advanced users, so don't get carried away. And then when do you want to do a reconsideration request? Well, I have another video on this. This is what a reconsideration request looks like. Most times you're not going to have to do this unless you have an outright penalty and it's a manual penalty. So unless it's a manual penalty, you're going to get a response that says, hey, this wasn't a manual penalty, we can't help you. And it might give you some information like, here's Google's guidelines, the quality guidelines, here's the things you may want to consider. But for the most part, you only need to do a reconsideration request if you suffered from a manual penalty. And that's why it's important to know the difference between manual and algorithmic penalties. Now you should know a little bit more about why we have the disavow tool, how and when to use it, the difference between penalties, filters, and bannings, and why the history of stinking linking thinking and not understanding different link types has got us to this point of needing this disavow tool. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you get rid of all those bad links, and I will see you soon.